Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Monica Nassif joining us. Monica is a founder, entrepreneur, brand builder, and motivational speaker known for pioneering success in the consumer household cleaning product market through her ventures, including, wait for it, Mrs. Meyer's Clean Day. You probably have this in your home. Monica has received several awards for her entrepreneurial achievements, such as the Minnesota Business Hall of Fame and the University of Minnesota Entrepreneur of the Year. Her new book is titled I Bottled My Mother, the Mrs. Meyers Story, Grit, Grime, and Growing a Business. Welcome to the show, Monica.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, and we were talking before the show. I'm down in La Crosse, Wisconsin. You're up in Minneapolis. Our producer is in Minneapolis. So we had a little Garrison Keillor old home week before the show started.
That's right. The Midwestern people are here.
Yeah, and I just dated myself with the Garrison Keillor reference,
Yes,
but
I understood.
Yes. So, Monica, before I stick my foot in my mouth further, and before we really get started, give our listeners the elevator pitch version of your story.
My story. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started 4 businesses. 2 were belly flops, 2 worked. And my most successful adventure was the Mrs. Meyer's Clean Day, which I started many years ago to really reinvent household cleaning products. So today I am also a consultant. I sit on the board of a consumer products company, and now I'm an author. So that's my elevator pitch.
That's awesome. How are you liking the author gig? Your book just came out. How's it going?
You know what? I have been a writer my entire career. I got my start with Target as an executive speechwriter. I used to write annual reports, press releases, all sorts of things. And throughout my career, I've kept just scraps of paper, notebooks, journal entries about my adventures because I've had funny, sad, crazy things happen to me. So I had a whole basket full of ideas and stories, if you will, when I sat down to write this story. So I find the process really invigorating, quite honestly. Yeah. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's advice for younger mid-career leaders is to start writing stuff down because you're gonna want it later, and
sure.
you'll kick. I did the same thing. I started writing in my late 40s, and it was really valuable. I've gotten 2 books out of it. My 3rd book is coming out later this year, and none of that really would have been possible had I not been writing earlier in my career. So
right on. I totally agree.
All right, Monica, if you had to pick one event in your life that put rocket boosters under your career was a key accelerant, what would that be?
You know, I have had a lot of jobs in my day, from truck stop waitress to farm work, and I was a nurse. I graduated from the University of Iowa with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing,
Yay!
And it wasn't a career for me. So I picked up my English degree at the University of Minnesota, and I went to my English advisor and said, Beverly, help me. Now what do I do? I've got this English major and nowhere to go. I've got white shoes and that's it. And she put across the table an internship at Target. And I was 28 at the time, so I was the oldest intern in the history of internships. And I went and applied for it and landed the job. And that completely changed my life. So I got into retail, consumer product, and I loved the industry. I just fell in love with everything about it. So that was definitely a life changer.
That's a wonderful story. And I screamed, yay, at the University of Iowa. I hold a master's and PhD from the University of Iowa. So we have that connection
You're
in
a Hawkeye.
common.
That's awesome.
Well. Definitely. Monica, let's start with Mrs. Meyers. For listeners who may not be familiar with the brand, give us a short primer on what Mrs. Meyers is and what was the key differentiator? What was the quote-unquote it?
Sure, Mrs. Meyers is a high-end, uh, still is a luxury cleaning line. And the differentiation was that you could clean your entire home in one fragrance. So if you loved basil, lavender, or lemon verbena, you could have dish soap, hand soap, countertop spray, laundry, and more in one fragrance. It was also made with earth-friendly products. The packaging was highly differentiated. We only had money at the time to compete at shelf in the stores of Whole Foods, Target, Walmart, and etc. So the packaging was so different that I had a lot of early investors say to me, this will never work because the packaging is so different. That's when I knew I was onto something.
Mm.
Because I had to be, that old saying, different is better than better. You have to be differentiated in the consumer category, and you have to disrupt a category. And that's really what Mrs. Meyers did. It disrupted the whole $30 billion household cleaning market.
Mm. That's an excellent story. So take us behind inside the why of your decision to begin building that business. And as you're taking us through that story, if you could weave in the most difficult obstacle to success that you had to overcome.
Sure. Well, the why came from I had a marketing communications business for 10 years, and our clients were Target, retailers, and consumer products. And all we did was build brands for other companies. And I love the process. But honestly, I was getting tired of making a lot of other people successful. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be dreamy if I could sleep at night and then a product would be made? So I'm down in a store in Atlanta, and I honestly have a eureka moment. I see all these cleaning products on this wooden pallet, and the triggers are huge. It looks like guns. The liquids are garish. The packaging says 70% off or more suds. And I remember looking at that going, what if that was awesome? What if that was like Aveda? Aveda's in Minneapolis. I know a lot about it. Love the product, love the brand. And I just couldn't get it out of my head. I went home, wrote down my business plan on the plane, and I became obsessed with this idea of reinventing cleaning to make it more like personal care for the home. So that was the why. And here's how I got to Mrs. Meyers. It was kind of a circuitous path. So I started with a different brand. I started with Caldrea, really high end at specialty stores. This brand was called Caldrea. It was named after my two daughters, Calla and Andrea. And that was much higher price, gorgeous packaging. And we were in about 3,000 to 4,000 stores at the time across the country. And I know that 80% of all household cleaning products are sold at the mass level. And I was worried that someone would knock us off, someone with a lot more money, a lot savvier marketing team. And I thought, I'm going to knock myself off. That's what I'm going to do. I always had a boss who told me, Monica, saw off the branch you're sitting on while you reach for the one above you. And I never forgot that. And I thought, I'm going to do this. I would be so mad at myself if I didn't knock myself off. So that's how we created Mrs. Meyers. And as we were brainstorming, we brought in a whole nother design team. We said, hey, if we wanted to obliterate Caldrea, if we wanted to just take him out competitively, what would we do? And we'd say, well, we would be true to our own personal values, Midwestern, hardworking, earnest, honest, respect for Mother Nature. And it was like, wait a minute, that's my mom. She lives in Iowa. She's an avid gardener, mother of 9, recycles, repurposes everything, finds joy in the minuscule beauty of nature. So I called my mom. I said, hey, Mom, you want to be a brand? And she goes, what's a brand? So I said, Mom, just say yes, because we got to get going.
Yeah.
So that's how the Mrs. Meyers brand started.
That's how Mom got involved.
That's how Mom got involved. She still thinks she started the company. So I just let her believe it. She's 93. She's doing awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful. I was just with my almost 85-year-old mother yesterday. They're just wonderful, wonderful parts of our lives.
Yeah,
thanks for taking us through that. Now, take us behind the scenes of your decision to sell the business. This is one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs to do, is pick the right time and the right circumstances. What was the most important thing that you did prior to the sale to help set the business up for success after your departure? Because this is something that a lot of sellers don't think about.
Well, a couple of things. The first thing you have to do, especially if you're in the consumer market, is build an amazing brand, one that creates immediate value, one that will help your multiples when it comes to the selling table. And that started from day one. We wanted to be, again, highly differentiated. That's one step. The next thing you got to do is get your back end in order. We started doing auditing financial statements, getting our ops, our finances in order. I knew someone would buy us because what was happening at the time, all the organic food and personal care brands were being snatched up. And I thought, gosh, it's only a matter of time before someone comes knocking on our door. And we had a lot of people knocking on our door. And it's a very bittersweet decision is to sell a business because it's your baby. You started it from nothing, but this was my mother. So I had to sell mom, Andy. It was a sad day. I'm going to be honest. It was very difficult.
Yeah. But how did you depersonalize, because I got to imagine it's wrapped up around mom, it's
Right.
wrapped up around you. And a lot of times entrepreneurs can't get past the personalized nature of the business. Right. For a long, long time, my business was operated under the Andy said mantra, right?
Exactly.
If I didn't approve it, it didn't happen. So how did you do that?
Well, for one thing, we created this brand Bible of Mrs. Meyers. What would Mrs. Meyers say? What would Mrs. Meyers do? And everybody had it. So this was our Bible. This was how Mrs. Meyers showed up in the marketplace because we didn't take any, when you build a great brand, nothing is taken for granted. Every detail, whether it's minuscule or monumental, matters in an amazing brand. So we got that all down on paper and everybody knew that. And that was years before we sold the company. So everyone clearly understood what the brand was about. So that's everything, is create an operating manual for your brand and not just the facts and figures, but the passion, the visceral part of it too, because great brands are visceral. They're not just full of, or our market share is X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's fine. But you buy a product because you're in love with it. There's some sort of ephemeral quality that you can't just keep your paws off this brand. That's what we wanted to create.
Yeah. Well, Monica, this has been fascinating. We're going to take a really short commercial break and we'll be right back. Want to understand money, markets, and the economy to make better financial decisions? I'm Andy Temte. Join me every Saturday morning for Money Lessons with Andrew Temte on YouTube or your favorite podcast streaming service. And we're back with Monica Nassif talking about entrepreneurship and women in business. Now, Monica, in the pitch document for your appearance on the show, it indicated that you have a mantra for business owners called Lucky Ladybug. My curiosity was immediately piqued and I had to ask this question. Please explain.
Well, that old saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I kind of view it differently. I believe that. Don't get me wrong. But I always say, when you put yourself out there in the universe and a lucky ladybug happens to come your way, run forward quickly. Chase it because the universe is opening up a door to you. And so that's what I mean about the lucky ladybug. When you see it in your life, when you see it in your business journey or your entrepreneurial adventures, that's a go sign, baby. That you gotta take whatever you're doing and run. And so I really believe in making luck work for you because a lot of times you don't know what you're doing. I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah, no,
so you need all the help you can get.
Yeah, that's for sure. Also in the pitch document, I learned that you gave a children's book to every employee when they walked through the door on their first day. Also fascinating. What was the book and what outcome was it meant to drive in your people resources plan?
I really believe that business should be kept super simple because our culture has to reflect what we want our customers to think. Do you think I want a customer standing in front of the Mrs. Meyers shelf at Target going, what is this? No, I want it to be like, quick, boom. Oh, I get it. And so I gave every employee who joined us the children's book, The Carrot Seed by Ruth Krauss. And I gave it to them for two reasons. First of all, I remember my mother she's a big gardener, and she always planted carrots. And if you've ever seen a carrot seed, it's smaller than a grain of rice. And I had a little tag that I wrote out that I attached to the book, and it said the Mrs. Meyers business plan. 1, plant seed. 2, water. 3, weed. 4, believe. And that's the story of the little boy in the carrot seed. He was Ernst, and he did all those things. And the last page of that little book is he's got a wheelbarrow with a huge carrot from this tiny little seed. And I thought, that's us. We're little, but we're going to get big. And I need all of you to help. So that was the metaphor I used for really chasing this dream.
That's wonderful. Monica, I like to run what I call mentorship moments. And so we're going to run a thought experiment. You now have an early stage career woman sitting right in front of you right now who wants more for themselves and their family. They think they have the entrepreneurial bug and want to start a business. What's your advice?
Well, the first thing is know yourself. You know, I have a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and go, gosh, how should I structure this? How should I do the business? What's the business plan? And I say, hold up, let's just step back for a second. Know yourself. Do you have perseverance, commitment? Do you have skin as thick as a sleeping bag? Are you willing to not sleep for 3 weeks? Can you travel the world to schlep your product? Are you willing to go in front of mostly male investors and just be shut out at every juncture? And if you have a fragile ego or you give up easily, don't take this route. Go back to whatever you're doing. So that's the first thing, is really understand if you can pull this off. And the second thing is build a plan. And most importantly about that plan is, can you disrupt a category? Can you be so differentiated that you're going to get noticed by the consumer? Because she's busy, right? She's on her phone. She's on TikTok, online. She's everywhere, shopping for everything. So you got to break out of that noise. How are you going to do that? And then the other thing I always tell entrepreneurs is, who are your affinity brands? Here's what I mean by that. So when I look to brands for inspiration for this, I look to fashion and home decor. Why? Because those same consumers who would buy a luxury product in cleaning are also buying amazing personal care, beautiful French, ceramics from Williams-Sonoma. We got to hang out in that area. So I better know a lot about it. So that's the other thing, is get really smart about what category you're entering, and then execute. You know that, Andy. Can you do the work? So that would be my advice.
Yeah. Can you do the grind? Can you be an operator and just have the resilience, the persistence to go at it day after day? Monica, I want to talk about the book, and the question that I'm going to ask you here is, let's say somebody picked up the book last week when it launched, and they read the book, and then you happen to bump into them on the street 6 months later, right? You have no idea that this person read the book, but you realize that they did, and what is the unaided recall that you want this person to parrot back to you after they've read the book? What do you want them to say to you when they go, oh yeah, I read that book, and
I know myself, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Or I know myself, thanks, now I know what to do. It's practical, it's fast-paced, and it's funny. I didn't want this stiff business book. I just wanted someone with a sense of joy and fun to go after this business. So that would make me feel really good if they parroted back that to me.
That they went on a personal journey of discovery, and they ended up somewhere else than they were when they started.
Yeah, or they said, okay, now I can reinvent myself. Or maybe they're mid-career and they go, you know what, I'm tired of this corporate stuff. I need to go. I'm going to bet on myself. That would make me feel really good.
Thank you for that. Monica, what have we not talked about today that you want to make sure that our listeners know?
You know, that we can do hard things. And I'm going to tell you a little story. So last summer, I taught in front of this advanced high school student entrepreneurship class. And the kids had to go around and talk about how they were making money. And the kid had to probably be 15. I said, what are you doing for your entrepreneurial business? He said, I'm shorting airplane stocks. And I went, what? He said, yeah, when there's a crash, I short airplane stocks. I said, wait a second. Would you just say that out loud again? I said, so you're betting your future on disaster and you have no skin in the game. I said, you need to do something harder. You need to do something more challenging. I could probably set up an AI program to short airplane stocks. I said, do a hard thing. And the teacher jumped right in and he said, Monica, what's the most important thing you learned about yourself when you started your own business? I said, I can do hard things. I can, it's kind of what you said earlier. I got the perseverance. I was never the smartest person in the room, but I could outwork anyone. And the other thing I always told myself is, if I don't know, I can read. I don't know how many times I said to myself, I can read. I'm going to read something. I'm going to figure this out. But I think that would be it. We can do hard things.
Yeah, that's, thank you for that. I have a guest that I can't mention the guest right now that's coming on after you, but we were talking about adding value, that, wake up every day and say to yourself, how am I going to add value today to myself, my family, my community, and society at large? And your do hard things fits right in with that value message. And that's what I've been hearing from you throughout this interview is add value to your segment, to yourself, to the marketplace, and get after it. So these have been wonderful messages today, Monica. Are you ready to have a little fun?
Let's do it.
Okay.
What are you going to ask me, Andy?
I have 3 lightning round questions.
Okay.
The first one is, Monica Nassif, you've just won a $100 million lotto jackpot, but there's a stipulation that half of your net winnings go to one philanthropic organization or a general cause. Who do you pick?
Pick Way to Grow in Minneapolis. It's all about early childhood education. They start at home with the newborn, and they make sure they're, what do they call it, 8 by grade. Everyone's reading. Everyone's proficient at math. We support that organization today. I would give all my money to them.
That is a wonderful cause. It is an old, tired phrase, but our children are indeed our future, and
right
we must invest in them.
Yeah.
Monica, my second question, I give you access to a really little time machine, and you can send a message to an earlier version of Monica Nassif. What's the message, and what previous version of yourself do you send it to?
I would send it to my go-go early corporate days when, I would just tell myself to chill out.
Would you have listened?
Probably not. You know what? A woman said to me probably even in my late 50s, she said, Monica, everything's in chapters. You don't have to have everything at once. That's what I would tell my younger self. And in fact, that's what I tell my daughters. They're both got great careers. And I see them go, 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 with their kids. And I just want to say, you know what? Life comes to you in chapters. And I would also say, enjoy the ride. I probably didn't do that enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I am right there with you on that. Monica, last question. We're all works in progress, always developing. What are you focused on right now in your personal journey of growth?
I call them the Monica 3 C's. Curiosity, creativity, and calm. I am always a curious person. I'm a very creative person, but I'm working on calm, Andy. And so I just think the world is super fascinating. I want to keep my eyes, ears, and mind open to new things.
Yeah.
That's what I'm working on.
Yeah. Yeah, calm is one of, I have many words that I live by, and that is indeed one of them, calm.
Yeah.
So we need more of that in the world. Urgent calm, actually.
I would agree.
Because you still want to, get after things and do really interesting things and add value, but you don't have to be running around with your hair on fire doing it.
Right. And the other thing I think I've learned in my career, and again, I probably learned this too late, is just because you can doesn't mean you should. Right?
Yes.
I've done a lot of things where I went, what was I thinking?
Right. Yeah.
Ability exceeds experience at times.
Monica, you have been just a wonderful guest today, and I'm certain that our listeners have extracted great value from this, from your words and this discussion. Thank you so much for being here. Where can people get in touch with you and your work?
My website is monicanassif.com, and you can also find me on LinkedIn at Monica Nassif. That's where you find me. And you can buy the book at Amazon, Walmart, Target, etc. Online.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Andy. It was a pleasure.
My name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. You can find us on all the major streaming services as well as out on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share this public educational good with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and maybe a neighbor. The show was produced by Nick Temte, and we'll see you next time on The Balancing Act.